wrapped up and tucked in. The night is cold, but I hope you're all warm and cozy. Tonight, again, it is A Wizard of Earthsea, Chapter 5, Part 4. We're gonna talk a little more quietly because people are snoozing. The last sentence. Unavenged, Pendor had been left to the dragon, with all its bones and towers and jewels stolen from long-dead princes of the coasts of Pan and Hosk. All this Jed knew well, and more, for ever since he came to Low Torning, he had held in mind and pondered over all he had learned of dragons, as he guided his small boat westward, not rowing now, nor using the seaman's skill Petchfury had taught him, but sailing wizardly with the mage wind in his sail, and a spell set on prow and keel to keep them true. He watched to see the dead isle rise on the rim of the sea. Speed he wanted, and therefore used the mage wind, for he feared what was behind him more than what was before him. But as the day passed, his impatience turned from fear to a kind of glad fierceness. At least he sought this danger of his own will, and the nearer he came to it, the more sure he was that, for this time at least, for this hour, perhaps before his death, he was free. The shadow dared not follow him into a dragon's jaws. The waves ran white-tipped on the gray sea, and gray clouds streamed overhead on the north wind. He went west with the quick mage wind in his sail, and came in sight of the rocks of Pendor, the still streets of the town, and the gutted, falling towers. At the entrance of the harbor, a shallow crescent bay, he let the wind spell drop, and stilled his little boat, so it lay rocking on the waves. Then he summoned the dragon. "Usurper of Pendor, come defend your hoard." His voice fell short in the sound of breakers beating on the ashen shores, but dragons have keen hearing. Presently, one flitted up from some roofless ruin of a town like a vast black bat, thin-winged and spiny-backed, and circling into the north wind, came flying towards Jed. His heart swelled at the sight of the creature that was myth to his people, and he laughed and shouted, "Go tell the Old One to come, you windworm!" For this was one of the young dragons, spawned there years ago by a she-dragon from the West Reach, who had set her clutch of great leathery eggs, as they say she-dragons will, in some sunny broken room of the tower, and had flown away again, leaving the old dragon of Pendor to watch the young when they crawled like baneful lizards from the shell. The young dragon made no answer. He was not large of his kind, maybe the length of a 40-oared ship. Wow, that's almost 80 feet. And was worm thin for all the reach of his black, membranous wings. He had not got his growth yet, nor his voice, nor any dragon cunning. Straight at Jed in the small rocking boat he came, opening his long, toothed jaws as he slid down arrow-like from the air, so that all Jed had to do was bind his wings and limbs stiff with one sharp spell, and send him thus hurtling aside into the sea like a stone falling, and the gray sea closed over him. Two dragons like the first rose up from the base of the highest tower. Even as the first one came, they're driving straight at Jed, and even so he caught them both, hurled both down, and drowned them. And he had not yet lifted up his wizard's staff. Now, after a little time, there came 3 against him from the island. One of these was much greater, and fire spewed curling from its jaws. 2 came flying at him, rattling their wings, but the big one came circling from behind, very swift, to burn him and his boat with its breath of fire. No binding spell would catch all 3, because 2 came from north and 1 from south. In the instant that he saw this, Jed worked a spell of changing, and between one breath and the next, up from his boat, and between one breath and the next, flew up from his boat in dragon form, spreading broad wings and reaching talons out. He met the 2 head-on, withering them with fire, and then turned to the 3rd, who was larger than he and armed also with fire. On the wind over the gray waves they doubled, snapped, swooped, lunged till smoke roiled about them, red lit by the glare of their fiery mouths. Jed flew suddenly upward, and the other pursued below him. In mid-flight, the dragon Jed raised wings, stopped, and stooped as the hawk stoops, talons outstretched downwards, striking and bearing the other down by neck and flank. The black wings flurried, and black dragon blood dropped in thick drops into the sea. The Pendor dragon tore free and flew low and lamely to the island, where it hid, crawling into some well or cavern in the ruins tower. At once Jed took his form again and place on the boat, for it was most perilous to keep that dragon shape longer than need demanded. His hands were black with the scalding worm blood, and he was scorched about the head with fire. But this was no matter now. He waited only till he had his breath back. Then he called, 6 I have seen, 5 slain, 9 are told of. Come out, worms! No creature moved, nor voice spoke for a long while on the island, but only the waves beat loudly on the shore. Then Jed was aware that the highest tower slowly changed its shape, bulging out on one side as if it grew an arm. He feared dragon magic, for old dragons are very powerful and guileful in a sorcery like and unlike the sorcery of men. But a moment more and he saw this was no trick of the dragon, but of his own eyes. What he had taken for part of the tower was the shoulder of the dragon of Pendor as he uncurled his massive bulk and lifted himself up slowly. When he was all the foot, his scaled head, spike-crowned and triple-tongued, rose higher than the broken tower's height, and his taloned 4 feet rested on the rubble of the town below. His scales were gray-black, catching the daylight like broken stone. Lean as a hound he was, and huge as a hill. Jed stared in awe. There was no song or tale could prepare the mind for this sight. Although he stared into the dragon's eyes and was caught, for one cannot look into a dragon's eyes. Almost he stared into the dragon's eyes and was caught, for one cannot look into a dragon's eyes. He glanced away from the oily green gaze that watched him, and held up before him his staff that looked now like a splinter, like a twig. 8 sons I had, little wizard, said the great dry voice of the dragon. 5 dead, 1 dies. Enough. You will not win my horde by killing them. I do not want your horde. The yellow dragon smoke hissed from the dragon's nostrils. That was his laughter. Would you not like to come ashore and look at it, little wizard? It is worth looking at. We'll end there, with the dragon of Pendor facing down the young brave wizard. On nights like this, you're in my heart, in my mind, and will surely be in my dreams. Tuck in and tuck tight, my river and my little peach. I'll see you in the folds of sleep.